Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Chat podcast. Welcome to another week, another edition, another show. And it's November, which means we're carrying on with our Survivor Series coverage. And we're actually looking at the 1990 Survivor Series that took place on November the 22nd, 1990. What better way to celebrate this date than by releasing this episode? Welcome everybody to the show. My name's Andy Aarons, coming to you as always from Weymouth in Dorset for another Retro Chat goodness. I hope you're enjoying the shows that we've put out so far this month. We're having great fun making them, so we hope you are enjoying them. Now, as always, if you want to get in contact with me via social media, you can do. All the details, I'm getting good at this now, are here on the screen. Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitch, you can find us at Retro Chat Podcast. You can tweet me directly at Retro Chat Pod, and you can visit the YouTube channel, which is Retro Chat Podcast UK, where not only do we put all of the existing shows that we do in video format, there's little extras coming as well. So we do Retro Play, some Vintos Vaults coming on there soon, plus short bites, and more short bites will be released in the next few weeks. Now, not only are we video, so you get to see my lovely mug, we are also audio, which means you get to hear me free of charge, always free of charge, on the main podcast platforms. And that's Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, Pandora, you name it, we are there. And all you need to do is search Retro Chat Podcast and hit that subscribe or follow button. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I ask every week, please leave us a review, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star if you think that's what it needs. But please leave us a review, because every little help helps us increase our penetration, helps us increase our listener awareness, and makes us grow up those charts, which means we can bring you more good stuff directly to the show. But I need your help in order to do that. All right, let's get on with it, shall we? Survivor Series 1990 was the fourth annual Survivor Series event produced by the World Wrestling Federation. It took place on Thanksgiving Day on November 22nd, 1990 at the Hartford Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut. Now, there were 16,000 fans in attendance, and the event is known for two things. The first being the on-screen debut of The Undertaker, who went on to become the World Heavyweight Champion at the next Survivor Series, and the appearance of the Gobbledygooker. Yeah. Now, The Undertaker replaced Bad News Brown, who had left the WWF after Vince McMahon failed to live up to his promise to make him the company's first black champion. In addition, Sergeant Slaughter, who then portrayed an Iraqi sympathizer, insulted servicemen stationed in Iraq for Thanksgiving during Operation Desert Shield. In an interview, the Macho Man, or the Macho King at that point, Randy Savage, challenged the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF World Heavyweight title. Haku replaced Rick Rude, who had left the WWF over a pay dispute. In the storyline, however, he was suspended by President Jack Tunney for insulting the mother of the Big Boss Man. Boris Zukov replaced Akeem, or the One-Man Gang as he was otherwise known, who had left the World Wrestling Federation in October of that month. Now, The Undertaker, or Mark Calloway, would wrestle for the WWE for the next 30 years, setting a company record for longevity. He would become one of the most important and beloved stars, one of the franchise player, one of the iconic superstars, and his retirement ceremony took place at Survivor Series 2020, which was exactly 30 years later. And we talk more about The Undertaker in a future show. Now, the one thing about the Survivor Series for this year was that the surviving team members would then go in to the ultimate winner-takes-all Survivor Series match. And we'll talk about that in a second. But let's have a look at the results. So in the dark match, the man who would become known as the franchise Shane Douglas defeated Buddy Rose. And then we kicked off with the first elimination, the first 4-on-4 single elimination tag team match. And it was the Warriors, Animal Hawk, the Intercontinental Champion, the Texas Tornado, and the World Wrestling Federation Champion, the Ultimate Warrior, facing off against the Perfect Team. Axe, Crush, Mr. Perfect, and Smash with the legendary managers Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mr. Fuji. Now, the eliminations occurred with Axe going first, followed by Smash, then Crush, then Hawk, and then Animal. That was all via disqualification. The Texas Tornado was eliminated by Mr. Perfect via pinfall in 11 minutes and 2, and Mr. Perfect was eliminated by the world champion, the Ultimate Warrior, in 14 minutes 20, which means that the winner of the first match going through to the finale was the Ultimate Warrior. We then moved on to our next Survivor Series 4-on-4 elimination match, which was the $1 Million Team, the Honky Tonk Man, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Ted DiBiase, and The Undertaker, who arrived with Brother Love, Jimmy the Mouth of the South Hart, and Virgil, defeated the Dream Team, which was the Hart Foundation, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and the Birdman, and Coco Beware. Now, the order of eliminations in this one, first was Coco Beware, eliminated by The Undertaker. The Honky Tonk Man was pinfalled, eliminated by Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who in turn was eliminated by Ted DiBiase. Dusty Rhodes was eliminated by The Undertaker. The Undertaker was eliminated by The Undertaker via countout. Greg Valentine was eliminated by Bret the Hitman Hart, and the Hitman was eliminated by Ted DiBiase, meaning the sole survivor was DiBiase, who would go on to form the heel team. Next up was our next 4-on-4 Elimination Survivor Series match, which was the Visionaries. Hercules, Paul Roma, known as Power and Glory, teaming up with the model Rick Martel and the Warlord with Slick, defeated the Vipers. Jake the Snake Roberts, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and the Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. This match went on for about 17 minutes and 42 seconds. But the order of elimination for this one, Marty Jannetty eliminated by the Warlord. The Superfly was eliminated by the model Rick Martel. Michaels was then eliminated by Roma, and Jake Roberts suffered a countout, which means that the entire Visionaries team survived. Hercules, Roma, the model Rick Martel, and the Warlord, they were going in to the finale match. Next up was the Battle of America, the Battle of the Disasters. It was the Hulkamaniacs, the Big Boss Man, Hulk Hogan, Jim Duggan, and Tugboat facing off against the Natural Disasters, the Barbarian, Dino Bravo, Earthquake, and Haku, again with Bobby the Brain Heenan and Jimmy Superfly, and Jimmy Hart, not Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Don't know what I was going there. So in this one, we had one sole survivor. Any guesses who that was? Haku was eliminated by the Big Boss Man via pinfall. Jim Duggan, was eliminated via disqualification. Dino Bravo was pinned by the immortal Hulk Hogan. The Boss Man was pinned by Earthquake. Tugboat and Earthquake then were eliminated themselves via double countout. And what was interesting here was that this was setting the scene for the formation of the Natural Disasters. Tugboat would change his name to Typhoon, Earthquake would remain, and we would have one of the most dominant big man tag teams of the early 90s at that point. The Barbarian was then pinned by the immortal Hulk Hogan in 1449, which means that the sole survivor and going through to the finale was the immortal Hulk Hogan. And our final contest was the Alliance facing off against the Mercenaries. And we talked earlier on how at this point, Sergeant Slaughter was an Iraqi sympathizer. They changed the character from the all-American G.I. Joe. He was one of the biggest heels in the company. And actually in January, he would go on to face the Ultimate Warrior at the Royal Rumble of 91 for the World Wrestling Federation Championship and would win that match due to a screw finish by the Macho King Randy Savage, which would set up the career-ending match at WrestleMania 7. So this one was very politically charged. And if you look at the Alliance, the Bushwhackers, Butch and Luke, the Russian sympathizer now turned American supportee, Nikolai Volkov, and the man who would become El Matador, Tito Santana, defeated the Mercenaries. Former tag partner of Nikolai Volkov, Boris Zukov, Slaughter, and then the Orient Express, Sato and Tanaka, with Mr. Fuji and General Adnan, otherwise known as the Iron Sheik, at ringside. So the orders of elimination for this one was actually quite interesting. Boris Zukov was eliminated first and pinned by El Matador Tito Santana. Sato was then pinned by Bushwhacker Luke, Tanaka via Tito Santana, and Volkov, Luke, and Butch were then all pinned by Sergeant Slaughter in close succession, winning the most decisions in a Survivor Series match. Slaughter would then get himself disqualified, which meant that the sole survivor of this match was Tito Santana. What this means is that this set up the finale match, and it was a handicap 3-on-5 Survivor Series elimination. On the one side was the faces, Hulk Hogan, Tito Santana, and the Ultimate Warrior, facing off against Hercules, Paul Roma, the model Rick Martel, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, and the Warlord. Now, this match lasts 9 minutes and 7 seconds. First to go was the Warlord, who was eliminated by Tito Santana, who was then eliminated by Ted DiBiase. Hogan got involved on the action and pinned Paul Roma. Rick Martel got himself counted out at 7 minutes and 17 seconds. Hogan then pinned the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase at 8:30, and the Warrior pinned Hercules at 9 minutes and 7, meaning that the winners of the finale match and the ultimate survivors were the immortal Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, the World Wrestling Federation champion, and the man who many would say was the greatest at that time. Now, one of the interesting things about this was that Gorilla Monsoon and Rowdy Roddy Piper were your commentary team at this point. Roddy was having one of those transition periods where he was going into commentary, and he was doing a lot of commentary over the years. But I think for me, one of the real quite upsetting things about this pay-per-view was the amount of individuals who are actually no longer with us. If we look at the Warriors, the entire Warrior team are not here. Animal Hawk, the Tornado, and the Warrior all sadly passed away. Mr. Perfect passed away in 2003. We then look at the $1 Million Team versus the Dream Team. Dusty Rhodes and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, sadly no longer with us. Hercules Hernandez is no longer here. Jimmy Superfly Snooker, no longer with us as well. The Big Boss Man, Dino Bravo, Earthquake. The list just goes on, and it kind of brings it home, really, as a wrestling fan since 1985, that, that these guys are no longer here. Plus, the commentators themselves, Gorilla Monsoon and Rowdy Roddy Piper, again, no longer with us. Mean Gene Okerlund, no longer with us. Howard Finkel, the ring announcer, no longer with us. Such a real emotional time watching this back, but looking back on it and going, these guys were so good, they were fantastic, absolutely amazing. But the question in everybody's, mind is, what happened after? Well, the crowd reaction to the gobbledygooker who was hatched during the pay-per-view was, negative. Nobody liked it, including the viewers. Nobody liked it at all. The fans were booing loudly, and Hector Guerrero was dancing in the ring with the announcer Mean Gene Okerlund. Now, the character did make a handful of appearances in tape promos following the Survivor Series, but soon disappeared and wasn't mentioned again until the gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17. WrestleCrap used the name for its Gooker Award, which was presented for the worst gimmick, storylines, or events in professional wrestling. Now, we mentioned earlier on about the Macho Man Randy Savage and Sergeant Slaughter. Well, both of them challenged the Ultimate Warrior for the World Wrestling Federation title. The last time that Savage was the world champion was back in 1988 when he won the heavyweight championship tournament at WrestleMania 4. Slaughter and General Adnan cut several anti-American and pro-Iraqi promos, all airing at a time when the US and the world was engaged in Operation Desert Shield, and the Gulf War. And it was all to build up for match against the Warrior at the 91 Royal Rumble. And that was held 2 days after the start of the war against Iraq. Slaughter, with the help from Savage and Sensational Sherry, won the title from Warrior, and then Warrior defeated Savage in a career-ending match at WrestleMania 7, after which the Macho Man turned face and had a really beautiful reunion with Miss Elizabeth, ultimately winning back the strap the year later at WrestleMania 8 when he faced off against Ric Flair. Now, that wasn't the end of the line for Savage and the Ultimate Warrior, because they did fight one more time, again for the strap, this time at SummerSlam of 1992 at Wembley, in a match plagued by interference from the Nature Boy and Mr. Perfect. As for Hulk Hogan, though, well, he went on to focus on wrapping up his feud with Earthquake with a series of stretcher matches, after which Hogan won those. He then went on to challenge Slaughter at WrestleMania for the World Wrestling Federation title. Since 1987, the team of Demolition had been running wild, pardon the pun, in the World Wrestling Federation, basically having the same gimmick as the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, known in the WWF as the Legion of Doom. And the feud between the L&D and Demolition, which by now was Crush and Smash, continued to rage until the end of 1990. L&D, or LOD, L&D is what I do for a living. LOD proved decisively they were the better team, but the feud didn't have the level of intensity they wanted because of Axe's reduced role in the tag team due to health problems. Demolition's last pay-per-view appearance was at WrestleMania 7, where the team lost to the team of Tenryu and Kitawa, again now known as the Orient Express. LOD eventually became the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. The Undertaker, as we said, quickly got over with the fans. He was handled lower card competition during his first few months and steamrolled over them. One of the most iconic moments was at WrestleMania 7 when he literally destroyed the legend Superfly Jimmy Snuka in about 1 minute 30. Following that win at WrestleMania 7, he started his first main event feud with the Ultimate Warrior shortly after the event. And as we said earlier on, at SummerSlam, at Survivor Series, 1991, he won the World Wrestling Federation Championship, defeating the immortal Hulk Hogan in that contest. He would then go on to lose it at Tuesday in Texas. 1991 was a cracking year. 1990, the early 90s, the late 80s, it was when wrestling was at its peak. It was the golden era, right? The big comical guys, the characters, the stories, it was just entertainment. And one of the things that I loved about it. Does it hold up? Does anything that old hold up? No, it doesn't. If you compare it to today's pro wrestling world, if you compare it to what you're seeing on AEW, if you compare it to what you're seeing on MLW or Impact or New Japan or even here in the UK, absolutely not. But to go back and relive the nostalgia of it, it was tremendous. I enjoyed sitting back and watching this one again, just getting lost in the legacy of some of these competitors, some people that we haven't seen for a long time, and also remembering some of the great moments that they had for those that are no longer with us. Well, that's it for this edition of the Retro Chat podcast. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for spending about 20 minutes or so talking to me about the 1990 Survivor Series and for joining us for the last 3 Survivor Series shows, 97, 1990, and 2001, all being looked at here in November here on the Retro Chat podcast. It's been fun. Don't forget, if you want to get in contact with me, you can do via social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch at Retro Chat Podcast. You can tweet me at Retro Chat Pod, and you can visit the YouTube at Retro Chat Podcast UK. You can also listen to the audio feed on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, any podcast provider by searching for Retro Chat. And it's only taken me so many episodes, but I'm now getting used to putting my finger in the right point with the camera on screen. That's it. Until next time, I will see you very soon. Thanks for joining me. All the best. Take care. See you at the matches. Bye-bye.